The World Food Programme warns that Yemen is at risk of famine. The joint forces attack Houthi military advancement in different fronts in Hodeidah. The world celebrates Media and Literacy Week while Houthis suppress freedom of speech and assault journalists. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English News with me, Shazad Abdelbey. The World Food Programme Executive Director David Beasley warned the money needed to feed millions in Yemen could finish within weeks. He called upon donors to keep their commitments to avoid a nationwide famine, adding that the country is hovering on a total collapse after nearly 7 years of war. Meanwhile, the World Food Programme confirmed last June that it had distributed food to about 6 million people, stressing that additional $800 million are needed to avoid human catastrophe. The joint forces destroyed targets for the Houthi militia in Hodeidah. The military media reported that the units in Al Saleh and Kilo 16, east of Hodeidah, shelled Houthi positions and caused direct casualties among them. On Beit al-Faqih front south of Hodeidah, joint forces spotted Houthi movements. In addition, artillery of the joint forces shelled Houthi positions, causing deaths and injuries among them. The coalition in Yemen announced the destruction of a boat on Kamran Island in Hodeidah. It was reported that the boat was planned to launch attacks on international ships. In the same time, the coalition announced killing of 264 Houthi rebels in airstrikes during the past 72 hours on 2 areas near Ma'rib. In Al Jawf, the coalition air raids targeted Houthi militia positions and inflicted losses in lives and equipment among them. Local sources said that the coalition aircraft targeting gatherings and vehicles of the Houthi militia in separate locations east of Al Hazm city. Massam Project reported that it removed 1,557 mines during the 3rd week of October. According to the project, more than 4,000 mines and unexploded devices have been removed since the beginning of this month. With this, the total number of cleared mines since the start of the project reaches 283,000. Houthi mines have not only killed and injured thousands of innocent civilians, but also blocked access to humanitarian aids. People cannot lead a normal life as deadly mines await them in every step they make. More on the story is within this report.
Massam is one of several initiatives undertaken by Saudi Arabia on the directive of King Salman to help ease Yemeni suffering. Saudi and international experts are removing mines planted by the Houthi militia in Yemeni regions, especially Ma'rib, Aden, Al Jawf, Shabwa, Ta'az, Hodeidah, Lahj, Sana'a, Al Bayda, Al Dala, and Saada. A total of 277,060 mines have been cleared since the start of the project. Massam has 32 demining teams. It aims to dismantle mines in Yemen to protect civilians and ensure that urgent humanitarian supplies are delivered safely. The Saudi project for landmine clearance, Massam, is continuing its efforts to save the lives of thousands of innocent people in Yemen and addressing the direct threats to the Yemenis caused by explosive remnants of war. The project was designed to clear Yemeni lands of the mines that were randomly planted by the Houthi militia in residential areas, near schools and along roads in various governorates, causing death and injury of thousands of Yemeni civilians. During the 4th week of September, the Massam project demined 1,755 mines, including 8 anti-personnel mines, 1,203 anti-tank mines, 543 unexploded ordnance, and 1 explosive device. Most landmines retrieved by Massam teams are locally made, while others originate from Iran. Houthis are developing anti-vehicle mines and turning them into anti-personnel explosives to terrorize civilians. Houthi landmines laid in farmlands, villages, wells, and roads. They have not only killed and maimed numerous civilians, but prevented vulnerable Yemenis from harvesting crops and drawing clean water desperately needed for survival. Mines have also prevented aid groups from bringing food and healthcare to increasingly hungry and ill Yemeni civilians. Houthi forces' widespread use of landmines along Yemen's western coast since mid-2017 has killed and injured thousands of civilians and prevented aid groups from reaching vulnerable communities. Yemeni law and the 1997 Mine Ban Treaty ban all use of anti-personnel mines. However, anti-vehicle mines have been used indiscriminately in violation of the laws of war, posing dangers to civilians long after hostilities have ceased. Human Rights Watch stated that in addition to laying anti-personnel landmines, Houthi forces planted anti-vehicle mines in civilian areas, modified anti-vehicle mines to detonate from a person's weight, and disguised improvised explosive devices as rocks and parts of tree trunks.
Journalists are the voice of the vulnerable and the suppressed. While the world celebrates Media and Literacy Week, journalists in Yemen paid the highest price. More on the story is within this report.
The world celebrates this week the Global Media and Information Literacy Week. Yet, Yemen is celebrating it in a different way. Journalists in Yemen celebrate by being forced to quit their jobs or flee, as they suffered so much harassment and abuse in their own country. Since the start of the conflict in March 2015, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has documented 357 human rights violations and abuses against journalists, including 28 killings, 2 enforced disappearances, 1 abduction, 45 physical assaults, and 184 arbitrary arrests and detentions. There have been 16 deaths or threats of physical violence against journalists, 24 seizures of media organizations, 26 closures of TV channels and newspaper companies, 27 attacks on media organizations and journalists' homes, and 4 death sentences imposed on journalists in violation of international human rights law. Journalists are also being horribly tortured in the prisons of the Houthi militia and have been denied family visits or access to their attorney and health care, as well as reportedly tortured and subjected to cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment. The Yemeni Journalist Syndicate Secretary General pointed out that hundreds of journalists lost their jobs and sources of livelihood. Meanwhile, Reporters Without Borders classified Houthis as the second largest hostage takers of professional journalists following the Islamic State. Houthis are so focused on journalists because they are aware of the importance of the media and the role the media could play in exposing the militia's behavior and violations. That is why the militia rushed to storm the capital Sana'a on September 21, 2014, and install its own people in the TV sector to spread misleading information and promote its own ideas and policies. Sana'a is now devoid of media outlets opposing the Houthis' authority, especially since many daily and weekly newspapers were forced to suspend their publications and were politically and systematically abused by Houthis. Adding to this, the blocking of news websites for surfers in Yemen, This was manifested in violence and the imposition of electronic censorship, including the ban on the use of WhatsApp and other popular mobile messaging applications. Freedom of speech has been confiscated since Houthi took control of Sana'a. Can we imagine in this millennium a world without free speech? Is it still possible that journalism is suppressed and journalists crack down in these times? The answer is sadly yes. It's happening in Yemen and by the Houthi rebels.
Coming next, Houthis continue their brutal campaign against Sana'a University staff and expel them from their houses.
راتب الواحد 120 ألف والكيس الدقيق ب18 ألف والكيس السكر اليوم ب20 ألف. كم يعني بيعطي هذا الراتب كامل كيس سكر وكيس دقيق؟
المواطن اليمني يعيش في أزمة إنسانية وغذائية مؤلمة من غلاء الأسعار وفحشة الأسعار وغلاء الصرف والعملة الأجنبية في البلد.
حالتي الحين حالة لما أخرج لما ندي 12 كيلو ما نقدرش ناكل الأكل داخل ما إحنا بحاجة صعبة.
Welcome back. Houthi human rights violations have reached almost all parties of the Yemeni society, and university staff are no exception. More on the story is within this report.
The Houthi militia continues its violations against academics and their families at Sana'a University by expelling them from the university housing and warning them to vacate their homes, despite their long years of service in the academic and educational field. Local sources in Sana'a confirmed that the militia is expelling those who violate their decisions, which academics assert are illegal and in violation of Sana'a University regulations. This comes days after the militias arbitrarily expelled academics with their families and children from the university housing and replaced them with Houthi elements. Also, the militia gave a deadline of 4 days for academics and their families to leave the university housing apartments that are designated for faculty members at the university, and threatened if they did not leave before the deadline, they would forcibly expel them, as they did in the past with dozens of their colleagues. The sources indicate that the total number of cases of expulsion of academics and their families from university housing has reached about 150 cases since the beginning of this year. Houthi militias are rapidly recruiting new staff and officials at Sana'a University and appointing academic leaders who are loyal to them, while terminating dozens of academics, employees, and assistants as part of its plan to take full control over the educational institutions in Yemen. The Union of Faculty Members called on all members of Sana'a University to confront these actions firmly and to stand against any dismissal or appointment procedures that violate laws, regulations, academic and administrative standards. The union also affirmed that these Houthi measures will deteriorate the educational level, affect the university's quality standards and reputation among regional and international universities. Academics nationwide spent their lives in service of education, and now they are unable to find alternative housing or pay its rent, let alone living without salaries for years now. In the end, violations of Houthis against all factions of the society continue, and academics are no exception.
According to local education official, Houthi militia forced all schools under its control to abandon the old curriculum. The sources confirmed the militia imposed using of their new curriculum, which is based on an extremist Iranian ideology. The sources added the recently printed textbooks include lessons and call for fighting under the name of jihad. On a different note, banking sources confirmed that Houthis directed banks to open accounts for an authorized money exchange company. This comes as the militia imposes dominance on the central bank in Sana'a through illegal involvements that have devastating consequences on the economy. The rebels have demolished the Yemeni economy severely by adopting a number of measures. They force people into paying royalties that burden their lives. More on the story is within this report.
Traders in Al-Mahweed Governorate closed their shops completely in preparation for a total strike. This is the step taken by people in Houthi-controlled areas to face the rebels' crippling financial pressures. The closure came in response to Houthi threats to remove some shops after their owners refused to pay unjustified royalties. The militia levy illegal taxes and raise money out of their money pockets in different names and shapes. One name is a celebration of a religious occasion. The rebels lure people into paying money in the name of religion and direct these finances to war. The crippling measures taken by the militia included banning the circulation of modern editions of the $100 banking sources in Sana'a, confirming that the Houthi decision may be just a start to passing amounts of fake currencies into the market. This insistence on dealing with the white dollar, according to experts, confirmed that the rebels are still receiving cash from Iranian oil revenues through a maritime smuggling network by use of the port of Hodeida. Informed banking sources confirmed that Houthis directed banks to open accounts for a money exchange company that was sanctioned by the US last June. The sanction came for claim that the company made transfers related to Iranian oil revenues and Houthi activities. Houthi measures not just cripple the Yemeni economy, but also burden the people who already suffer from war, poverty, and gloomy future.
The National Committee Against Coronavirus announced 16 new cases of the COVID-19 in 5 governorates. Also 10 deaths were recorded, plus 103 recovered cases. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 9,694, including 1,850 deaths and 6,307 cases of recovery. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. The World Food Programme warns that Yemen is at risk of famine. The joint forces attack Houthi military advancement in different fronts in Hodeida. The world celebrates Media and Literacy Week while Houthis suppress freedom of speech and assault journalists. This brings us to the end of the news. So was Shazab Delbei. Thank you for watching.